Hari Om. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our next session of Kindle Live. Let us begin our day 10 with prayers.
समस्त जन कल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। So now we have understood the place of science and religion. Now from today, let us try to understand how science and religion together is vital for the nation.
As you can see, our next chapter, chapter number 17, is Vitals of Nation. Vitals, as we know, means that which is absolutely essential, which is a must for every nation. Let us go further. A population living in a geographical area would not by itself constitute a nation. It is just a mere number, a multitude of human beings. But when the members live together with an integrated program and strive with diligence and devotion for the achievement of a common goal, one sees the formation and glorious achievements of a nation. As long as human beings live disintegrated, each one self-centered and seeking his private ends, regardless of others, with no allegiance whatsoever to a common cause, they can never make a nation. The scientific, economic, and political philosophies have, time and again, given out revolutionary schemes which present an artificial look of integration during the initial enthusiasm. But by themselves, none of these schemes can ever succeed in creating or building up a true nation. I must stop over here for a moment and just say that it is such a coincidence that right now we are doing this chapter called Vitals of a Nation, whereby our own nation is going through such times. And absolutely these two paragraphs we have read completely conform to the ideas which Gurudev has put forward in front of us. It is absolutely incredible this coincidence. Let us continue. The schemes of the objective scientist never deal with man as such. They are only concerned with the environments and circumstances and not with the individual. But a nation is composed of individuals, and its nature and strength are essentially rooted in the texture and quality of the individuals comprising it. How then could a nation be built by mere enhancement of wealth, improvement of social laws, or advancement of science and technology? Here too, immediately, I'm sure, another nation would come into your mind who has immense wealth, improvement of social laws, advancement of science and technology. But yet, today, where is it? How is it coping with the problems of what we are facing today? I'm sure all of these things must be running in your mind. This does not mean that the political revolution, economic planning, and scientific progress are to be discarded or cast aside. Wealth, amenities, and social orders have, no doubt, their own particular significance, but they go only as far as they can and will be rendered negative if the individuals manning them are wanting in integrity of character, which constitutes the very backbone of a country. The political workers introduce dogmas, bring about reforms, and endeavor to ensure that their country looks the best in the eyes of the world. Nevertheless, when the individuals in any country have no national consciousness or a feeling of love and fraternity, internal struggles and strifes arise and sap at the very root of the politician's idea of a united and progressive nation. Many a great empire has thus met its downfall and sunk into oblivion. Again, in the economic field, the economists try to bring about wealth and material prosperity to the nation. But material prosperity, whatever be its dimensions, can achieve no purpose worth the name without integrity and strength of character amongst the people at large. Where there is moral and cultural degradation, there is bound to be aggrandizement and exploitation culminating in impoverishment. Similarly, all scientific achievements can be a blessing to mankind only as long as man is rational and ethical. But if he loses his discrimination and flouts all moral and ethical values of life, excuse me, employs his knowledge in destructive channels, these achievements become a curse and threat to mankind. This is what we find in the human situations of the day. Whatever be the development and progress in the objective fields of inquiry, a population does not acquire the recognition or status of a nation unless it is knit together with bonds of character and principles of service and sacrifice. This dynamic spirit of togetherness can be achieved by religion alone. Philosophy is a pure science of life. When translated into practical living, it is termed religion. In other words, religion may be said to be an applied science of life. A faithful adherence to religious precepts and doctrines develop a proper sense of integrity amongst individuals who go to constitute a healthy community. The coordinated and inspired efforts of such human beings alone can build up a nation. A united country wherein each citizen is inspired to give out his very best in a spirit of selfless dedication, demanding nothing for himself except the privilege of serving the country, develops into a mighty nation, asserting itself with power, prestige, and strength. The dynamics of togetherness is, therefore, to be discovered immediately, more so in the context of the present world. The answer to this great challenge of the times assures us of a continued future as a happy, united, and progressive nation, serving as a beacon for the restless world to follow and gain a more rewarding peace and more meaningful progress. I am so stunned that how relevant is this chapter today for us. Truly beautiful. Of course, as usual, let us see some of the word meanings of this chapter, Vitals of a Nation. Normally, most of the time, I try to have the meanings in the chronological order. Diligence, careful and persistent effort. Integrity, having strong moral principles. Dogmas means rules. Fraternity, people or community with a common interest. Impoverishment is poverty. And beacon, light or fire used as a signal to guide others or to send a message also. All the parts of this chapter essentially are just something to think about, to identify mostly, which is quite easy as to whom we can see in today's world. I really don't want to take names, but it is so easy to see which nations fall in which category, which have been described. But there is one particular section that I would like to tell you about. This comes towards first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, around the 8th paragraph, where it is written, "Similarly, all scientific achievements can be a blessing to mankind only as long as man is rational and ethical." So science also has its limitation, that it can be good as well as bad, but it really depends upon man's attitude and thinking about it. Because the paragraph continues, "But if he loses his discrimination and flouts all moral and ethical values of life, employs his knowledge in destructive channels, these achievements can become a curse and threat to mankind." I'm sure some of you will know this, but let me share something very important with you. All of us today know about the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel as in Nobel. Nobel was the name or the surname of this person called Alfred Nobel, on whose name is the foundation, which is such a large and recognized worldwide foundation giving out prizes in various fields.
Everyone saw.
Now, this particular paragraph, when I read, "But if he loses his discrimination and flouts all moral and ethical values of life," somehow reminds me of him instantly. He had over 300 patents on his name. And most of these patents, that is, I think almost all of his patents, were in the field of armaments and arms and ammunitions. And he was most famous for his discovery of dynamite. He has consistently, or he had consistently, created weapons and things which are used for mass destruction. And it so happened that people were so tired of what he was creating, it was considered so immoral, that somebody had written an obituary. That means when they die, the Christian faith people write something after their death, on their tombstone or such. And I do not know the exact words, but he had mentioned that the dreadful person responsible for deaths had finally died. Something to that tune. So when Alfred Nobel, read that obituary of his while he was alive, it suddenly made him think that, my God, is this what people think of me? Is this what I have become? And he did not want to leave such a legacy. Of course, the patents and especially arms and ammunitions had given him immense wealth. So before he died, then he created a foundation which would principally give the Nobel Peace Prize in his name, so that he would be remembered as a good person in spite of doing everything which was moral and unethical, immoral and unethical, and using science in such a horrific manner. And do you know the final joke of it all? That the foundation recognizes that the one grievous mistake that they have made in their 100+ years of the organization is that they have never given a peace prize to Mahatma Gandhi. Now imagine this. I really don't know whether we should feel sad about all of this or just laugh at it. And this foundation is recognized as the most prestigious foundation in entire universe, their own universe, of course. So this is what exactly Gurudev is trying to tell us, that yes.
And this is what the connection of the next chapter is.
Yes, absolutely.
That what happens to this is because the upbringing, culture. So let us understand the next chapter. What is culture?
Culture is the measuring rod of civilization. The difference between an uncivilized, barbarous country and a civilized nation lies in their culture. When a set of people live for a long period of time in a particular geographical area, respecting certain philosophical values and virtues of life, there emanates a fragrance which is called their culture. The quality of such culture depends upon the type of values followed. The first three aspects are common to different countries, and they are the same within the limits, just as the head, the trunk, and the limbs are common to all human beings, although the size, weight, color, and shape differ from one another. The difference in culture, therefore, lies in the values and virtues of life entertained by the people. The values reported by the people are, in the beginning, ordered by external exigencies of life. Thus, in the first age of civilization, geographical and climatic conditions and environment influenced the people and determined their values of life. Once such values are determined and a culture is set, the external environment will have little influence over the culture thus established. In Western countries, the land was rugged and hard because of severe climatic conditions and constant snowfall. Consequently, the people became hardy. They had to train themselves to fight unrelenting nature and procure from her whatever was required for their self preservation. Conquest of nature thus became a fundamental trait in the character of the people in the West. In sharp contrast, the East provided land with plenty and prosperity. With the slightest persuasion, the land yielded an abundance of flowers, fruits, and vegetation. Rivers were ever full, and springtime flourished for nearly 8 to 9 months in a year. In such harmonious expressions of life, everywhere the people imitated the nature, and quite naturally developed a culture based upon serving and giving instead of fighting and procuring. Thus, a culture emanating peace, tranquility, love developed in this country, whereas materialism took roots in the West and inculcated the idea of conquest. Even in our day to day experiences in life, we can clearly observe how external environment and happenings exercise initially their distinct influence on the development of our culture. A poor boy living in the rugged atmosphere of the slums seems to develop a tendency to protest and fight, while another, born of opulence and security, is generally more refined and cultured. This can be observed even a busque, where the latter waits and takes his turn, while the former often protests, rushes, and forces himself in. Civilization flourishes with the promotion of culture, but when cultural values deteriorate, the civilization of a society breaks down, as we have seen in the fall of the Egyptian, the Greek, and the Roman empires.
Certainly.
The great religious masters of this country, using their own ingenious efforts, have time and again revived the philosophical and religious values for which the country stood and thereby arrested the deterioration of culture. When culture deteriorates, there is an increase in barbarism and immorality in the country, and its philosophy is misinterpreted, leading to confusion and chaos among its people. This, in short, is more or less the sad condition of the present world. The need of the hour is to arrest this deterioration by reviving the great philosophical and religious values of life. In no other literature in the world have these values been so beautifully and exhaustively dealt with as in the sacred books of our country. Hence, it becomes the bounden duty of each one of us to dedicate oneself to unearthing the sacred messages of our scriptures and highlighting their philosophy for the rest of the mankind to follow and be blessed. And what a fantastic culture that we have inherited. The tragedy, as Gurudev mentions, is that in the present day, how the culture deteriorates or the civilization itself deteriorates when it is not looked after, not cared for, sometimes taken for granted, or over time completely misunderstood if you are not in touch with it. So that has to be avoided. And who, if not we, the people of our country, don't protect our own culture? At least not misunderstand it. Give it to our children. So that becomes our absolute duty, the vital of a nation, to preserve and protect who we are. And the great thing is that we are such a beautiful people. Shall we go ahead?
Yes, because it is a continuation. So 19, we spoke on the science and religion, then we spoke the vitals, how they work, but both have to work with man. So let us understand the man.
We have seen what is culture of a nation. Now let us see what is man exactly. Man is the roof and crown of creation. Besides man, the manifested world comprises the animal, the plant, and the inert kingdom. After a scientific analysis of the categories of things and beings, the religious masters discovered a similar classification prevailing among the human beings. Further, they declared on the basis of their own experiences that the noblest and the best among human kingdom are within the reach of every man. Gradation among human beings is created by the differences in the quality and texture of their emotions and their intellectual convictions. The inert objects merely exist, like the stone or the earth. They are neither conscious of nor do they react to the external world. So we are clearly explained what is an inert object. It's like a stone or just the mud or the earth. It doesn't move, it doesn't react to anything, it's just there. We find a variety of human beings similar to insentient things. They are just as indifferent, as ignorant, and as totally unaware of external circumstances and environment. The consciousness or awareness of the world in such people is vague and indistinct, and they are an embodiment of colossal lethargy and inertia, having no plans, no passions, no pangs in life. Such man may be classified as stone men. A little more evolved than the inert objects are the plants. Plants are also predominantly lethargic. They remain where they are, and their reactions to the world is confined to basic necessities for their existence. The rudiments of discrimination seem to emerge in the plant kingdom. They are able to distinguish between sunlight and darkness, food and poison, and they endeavor to obtain what they need. Emotions, however, are basically lacking in flora, inasmuch as a mother tree does not allow even its seedlings to grow under it, when the latter come in the way of its quest for food and water. On a careful study and observation of mankind, we find among them a definite variety whose life imitates that of a plant. Such men, steeped in inertia, react only to exaggerated happenings. They can never exert or do anything constructive. They exercise discrimination only when the objects are gross and substantial, and they lack the basic emotion of feeling for others. Such men fall under the category of plant men. Animals are more evolved and have a better awareness of the world. The faculty of intellectual discrimination has appreciably grown among animals as compared to that obtaining in the plant kingdom, and their reactions to the environment have naturally improved. They move from place to place in quest of food, but do not perish like the plant if food is not available in their location. Emotions and feelings are found to have developed in the animals. They care not only for themselves but also for their offsprings. Similarly, among men, there are animal men who are desire ridden, passionate, and egocentric. Their intellectual discrimination is limited, and being always extroverted, they constantly engage themselves in fighting, procuring, and aggrandizing for the enjoyment of their kith and kin and themselves. In fact, a wide cross section of human beings belong to this category, and their activities are mainly guided by feelings and impulses rather than by discrimination and understanding. The fourth variety is man, the best in creation. Human beings have the maximum capacity for emotion, and their feelings can embrace the entire universe. Also, the faculty of intellectual discrimination in man knows no bounds. Not only can he discriminate extrovertly in the realm of the gross world, but he can also delve into the subjective layers of his personality until he reaches the recesses of the spiritual core in him. Those who do not make use of this great capacity inherent in them belong to the aforesaid three categories, though they are labeled as men. But the rare few that develop a universal love and constantly engage themselves in activity under the guidance of their superior intellect are called man men, and they alone can claim the prestige, dignity, and glory of man. Having taken the human embodiment, would it not be suicidal to lead a life in this world, abandoning this wonderful faculty bestowed on us by the kind Lord? Really, so much to think about in this beautiful chapter. How well Gurudev has categorized men into the firstly the stone men, then the plant men, the animal men, and then the man men. Man has got a gift from God to be born as a human being. There is so much more that he can do, not just in the external world, but he really has the capacity to quieten his mind, as we have seen in the earlier chapters also, and reach deep within himself to find that bliss and everlasting happiness, which is his own true nature, actually. The very reason that human beings want to be happy all the time is because their core nature is eternal happiness, the bliss. They just don't know it. They try to find happiness in the outside world, elsewhere, or in the outside world. But the happiness that they are actually looking for only lies deep within the recesses of their body, in themselves. We will think more and talk and discuss more about all of these subjects.
Certainly.
Tomorrow.
In Vivek Chudamani, Sri Guru Adi Shankaracharya, he starts saying that Jantu Nam Narajanma Durlabham. Jantu means all those who are taking birth. Amongst all the creatures of this universe, Narajanma is Durlabham. Obviously, there is this understanding behind
Narajanma is human life.
Human birth. him saying this is because there is so much understanding behind that what the capacity and capability of the human mind and intellect is.
Yeah.
It is so much, it is capable of so much more than just doing what the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom does. We have so much to read and understand. Tomorrow evening, we have our discussion session. So the platform will be any meeting, which I will also send the link, but it will be the similar link like last time. Also, we expect questions if you have any or queries, or if you want to communicate something by email or by WhatsApp prior, so that it will help us in understanding and in communicating.
So beautiful. I urge all of you to go through these chapters that we have read today. How interesting and how beautiful life is, and explaining to us the goal and purpose of our life. And I'm so happy that all of us are walking this journey together. So let us end our session today with prayers.
Yes, Rash. We can't thank Gurudev enough for leaving us this beautiful legacy. Asito ma satkamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamrutam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.